Hey loves, Caroline here from CarolineLearn.com, and I'm here today to share with you 5 simple ways to conduct meaningful research with your audience for your business. So before we dive into the 5 ways, what I'd like to just cover is why it's so important to do research with your audience. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen brilliant and creative business owners create incredible products that they then launch to their people, and it flops. Nothing happens. Or they get, a small trickle of sales, but nothing that would warrant the time and effort and energy that they have put into creating that product or service. So why does that happen? Well, because in all likelihood, I mean, there's 2 main reasons. You haven't marketed it enough, people don't know it exists, or you haven't done sufficient research with your audience to know that this is something that your people truly want or need. And so for me, doing market research or audience research is essential on a number of levels. First of all, I love the fact that it cultivates a closer relationship with your people, with your tribe, with your audience, because it's conversation. You're having a conversation with your people rather than going away and thinking about what you would love to create and creating it, which generally comes from our own internal experience of whatever problems or issues we have faced. And instead, it's a conversation with your people to find out what they truly need and want. And in my experience, that cultivates a closer relationship. People appreciate being listened to. People appreciate the opportunity to have an input into your business and into what you create. If they care about your business in any way, or the work that you do in the world, being asked for their opinion is just a wonderful way to cultivate that deeper relationship and deeper trust. It also gives you, obviously, invaluable information about what your audience is struggling with. So, really what you want from your research is to find out 2 main things. What is the problem that your people, your ideal clients, your audience are facing and need help with? And what kind of solutions are they looking for? What are they prepared to spend money on? If, for example, the audience that you have cultivated loves group programs and all you do is offer online courses, then your business isn't going to succeed. So you really need to be talking to your people, not just about what is it you're struggling with, what's the issue that you face that I can help you with, but also how do you want to receive that help? How do you want to, how would you like me to deliver the solutions that I offer? Really important stuff. So you can get that kind of invaluable information when you actually talk to your people, rather than just think, well, I like to create pretty online courses, but then you find that your people are craving one-to-one connection, for example, maybe through coaching or other one-to-one work, or maybe they really want group work. They need community. They need to feel that they're part of something in order to make the progress with the issue or the problem that they're struggling with. Another third way, which I love, that I think a lot of people overlook, is it raises the profile of your business. So whenever I'm doing market research in my business, and I'm going to run through the various ways in which we can do that, what I'm doing is I'm actually raising awareness of what my business does, of the kind of work I do and the kind of problems and issues I help people to overcome. And so often we think we're just getting information, but we're also in the questions that we ask, and especially we're gonna look at the different levels of depth you can go into with your research. So, one of the things we'll be looking at is actually having conversations with your people. The more in depth you're going with your research, the more information you're also giving to people about what you do and the kind of work that you do. I think it's a wonderful way to market your business without really marketing. So I'm a big fan, if it's not obvious already, of audience research. And so I really want to talk you through 5 ways, and they're kind of different levels that you can work through, starting with the very, the most simple up to the more complicated and more in depth, so that you can see that there are various ways to do this and to get information from your people. And so number 1, which is the simplest, is asking questions on social media. So this is so easy and so simple. And if you're not doing it already, I urge you to do it today. I urge you to, think of a question that you can ask your people and put it out on social media today. It's super simple, and you can do it in a variety of ways and places. So you could, for example, ask a question on your Facebook page or in an Instagram story. You could ask it in an email newsletter. What you want to do more than anything is make your questions super simple and relatively easy to answer, because this is light touch research. This is just kind of tapping into your audience and giving them something that, for them takes a second to answer, but that gives you important information. Now, I want to share something here, because I was sharing this method with a client of mine recently, and he said that something he struggled with that is when he sees other business owners doing it, he feels like, I don't want to put words into his mouth, but he was like, it doesn't feel good, because he knows they're just trying to get information out of him, so that they can then sell to him later down the line. And the advice I gave him was, why not try to make the questions that you ask meaningful in and of themselves? So have the question be something that is going to be thought-provoking and potentially insightful for the person answering the question. So that's just something, if you feel similar, if the idea of putting these questions out on social media feels a bit icky to you, there's a way to do it that is meaningful. And as a trained life coach, one of the things I learned back in the days of my training is that asking powerful questions can be deeply transformational. And so, don't shy away from asking questions that could be thought-provoking for your people and could have them go, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of this. I hadn't thought of it, and this is making me dig deeper just to answer the question. At the same time, you don't want your questions to be so thought-provoking that people dismiss them and say, I'll have to come back to this later because, this is a meaning of life question. You want it to be something that you can answer relatively simple, but that, has them pause and stop and think about something in the realm of what your business works with. So I want to give you a couple of examples, and I'm looking down because I have various notes for today's video. So for example, if you're a business coach like I am, you might ask, what about growing your business do you most struggle with? So again, it's a super simple question, but it really does make the person pause and think, what is my biggest struggle right now in my business? What is the thing that's stopping me in my tracks from moving forward? It's a simple question, but actually the answer to it can be quite profound and gives you, as the business owner, the business coach, really invaluable information, because that's the thing. If you see the same answer coming up time and time again, that's the thing you're going to want to help people with. That's the thing you're going to want to create a product or service around. If you're a life coach, you might ask, what's the number one thing that gets in your way of making progress towards your big dream? Again, a simple question, but it stops the person and it makes them think, what is it? Most of the time we're not thinking about what our struggle is. We're dealing with the symptoms of our struggle. We're dealing with the day-to-day, going back to the business example of, procrastinating and spending too much time watching YouTube videos instead of doing the work that we're supposed to do. But very rarely do we sit and consciously look at what that number one thing is that's getting in. So, asking people to name their number one struggle or the number one thing that gets in the way is really powerful, not only for you as the person conducting the research, but also for the person answering the question. Again, so a similar question as if you're a nutritionist, you might ask, what's your number one health struggle? If you're a VA, you might ask, if you had the money to outsource one thing in your business, what would it be? I mean, and I've seen that question asked, and you know, a great response. And again, it makes people think, oh yeah, if I did have the money, this is the one thing that I don't like doing, you know, that I wish I could pay someone to do for me. Great information to have as the business owner who's struggling, you know, to maybe you can't afford it right now, but it's good for you to know. So I like asking questions on social media. I think they're really helpful to you to find out, as the business owner, to find out, you know, what's present, what the biggest struggle is. I mean, and you know, I've focused in on biggest struggle, but there are other things that you might ask. You might get more specific. For example, once you know what the biggest struggle is, so for example, if you know that a lot of your audience are suffering with procrastination or perfectionism, you might then ask a very specific question that you know, that deals with that. How does your perfectionism show up most often in your life, for example? Another thing I like to do with the one question is I like to do complete this sentence statements on social media, because they're super simple for people to complete, and again, give you a lot of information. And so just to share with you two that I've used in my business, my number one wish for my business this year is ... and then allow people to answer that question. To grow my business, what I most need to learn is ... And again, you know, as you can hear in the question, these are powerful for me to know. These are going to help me to tailor my content, my products, my services, all of that good stuff, free and paid, to supporting my people with the thing that they most desire or they most need to learn. So that's number one, super simple. And again, if you've never done it, do it. And you don't just have to do it on your channels. You can go, there's lots of groups where your ideal client may hang out that you can ask this question. Always check with the rules, obviously, but there's a lot of places that I know of, for example, in the entrepreneur world, where it's perfectly normal for people to ask these kinds of questions, and that have, you know, 10, 20,000 people. So you get, you know, a fair few responses. You know, there's very few places where you have that kind of access to that amount of people. And Facebook and the other social media channels are really great for that. Number two is polls. So this is where you ask people to choose between, you know, some options that you've already laid out. So I like to put this after the question, because if you've done a couple of the asking questions or finish this sentence on social media, you have a bit more information, and maybe you already have information about what your people are dealing with. And here you can kind of go a little bit deeper. And I wanted, you know, there's various ways you can do polls in Facebook groups and on your Facebook page, I believe, are two places you can do it. You can do it within some of the other types of market research I'm going to outline later on. And also I discovered for the first time, as I started this Facebook Live, it gave me the option of making it interactive and asking a poll. Now, I don't know if you can see it, so this is me testing it out. And if you can see a poll somewhere around the video, then please do fill it in, because I would love to see how it works and all of that good stuff. And so just to give you an example then of the kinds of things. So there's a kind of multi-choice question that I ask all the time. I ask it in my pre-session questions. So when I do a complimentary session with people, I ask, this is the number one question I ask it in my audience survey. I ask people to answer this when they first join my mailing list. There's lots of places that I ask this, and it's I ask people what stage of business they are at. So I give three options: just starting out and not making any money, making some money but not enough, making consistent income but wanting to go to the next level. Now, when people answer that, again, it's super simple. You know in a heartbeat which stage of that you're in. But for me, it's such invaluable information, because it tells me where the majority of my audience are on that journey. Because as a business coach, if I tried to help everybody at every stage, of the business journey, it would be overwhelming and very scattered and unfocused. So it's really helpful for me to know. And for example, I know that most of my people are between A and B. So either just starting out or have made some money or are making, a little bit of money, but not consistently yet. So that's great for me to know, because then I can tailor everything that I do to that level. Because if I was creating products and services that were all aimed at people who are already creating consistent income, but want to, go to the next level, it would completely miss the point for the majority of my audience. So again, it's really, really great. I like to use polls for that, to get a sense of where the majority of your people lie on a particular issue or within the industry that you serve. You can also use it, when I'm trying to decide what something to offer. Maybe I want to do a Facebook Live, for example, and I think, okay, I've got 3 topics that I think could be interesting. It's a great one to say, which of the following would you most love me to do a Facebook Live on? Which of the following would you most like me to create my next blog post on? So polls are great when you've already got some idea and you want to get feedback on the merit of each of those ideas. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Number 3, we've got audience surveys. Now, these are definitely more detailed and require a bit more thinking on your part. I like to do an audience survey once a year. I send it out to all of my email subscribers. I put links to it on my social media. And because it requires more effort and energy from the person completing it, you do have to give some kind of incentive. So I often will give something like, for everybody that responds. Now, if you've got an audience of 10,000, that's probably not advisable. Although I do know coaches who have huge audiences and still offer something, an incredible gift for every single person. So I might offer, for example, a 30-minute complimentary coaching session, or something else. It can be, depending on what you do and the service or products you normally give to your people, have a think about what you could give as an incentive. Now, if you do have a big audience and you can't give something to everybody, you could say, for every 10th person who completes, or if you complete, your name goes into a hat and I'll draw out 10 people to receive X. So it can be, the incentive can be a chance to win something from you. So even though it's more detailed, even though you are going to go into more detail, you still don't want to make it too onerous or time consuming for your people. So I would recommend never doing more than 10 questions. Now, my last audience survey has 7, and I'm going to put a link to that in the comments. You're more than welcome to complete it. I would love it if you did. And it will give you a clear sense of the types of questions. But essentially what you want to be doing in an audience survey is asking them, what do they want to see more of from you? What is it that they're struggling with? I mean, you always want to know that. You always want to be tapping into, what your audience and your potential clients need from you. And, what they want to see more of from you. What products or services would they love you to create? What blog posts would they love you to write? All of that good stuff is really helpful. And I tend to, and there are plus and minuses, but I tend to have more open-ended questions in an audience survey so that I can gather the language and give free rein to the people completing it to really share, their own personal experience, their own personal thoughts. If it's all yes or no answers or, multiple choice, then you take away that space to really hear what your people, want and need, and how they would specifically articulate the issue that they face, which is really important, for creating marketing copy and content, being able to put things into the words, that your potential customers would themselves use is so important. I mean, it's just huge. So let's see what else, if I've got anything else on audiences. No. So yeah, like I say, you know, you could do one once a year, you could do one every 6 months, but again, I think, you know, doing a survey for your existing audience is really essential. Then number 4 is what I call market research calls or interviews. Now, this for me is the premium. This is the cream of the crop. And I absolutely love these, and I highly recommend them to people. And so what they are essentially is one-to-one, and the reason I love that, because I'm a huge fan of one-to-one. The more you can be in direct conversation with your people, one-to-one versus one-to-many, the better it is for your business. Just full stop. I mean, there's nothing beats it. In fact, I mean, this is probably a topic for another Facebook Live, but what I see, a big mistake I see a lot of people make is that they talk more, you know, they focus more on talking to the many than having those individual conversations. One-to-one calls with people in your audience who you would consider to be potential clients is such an important source of information for you. And you can do these at any time. I like to do them when I'm creating something. So I'm more likely to I mean, I'm quite busy with my business, but I'm more likely to do market research calls if I'm creating a new product or service. And I have a sense of what I want to create, but I want to go deeper and talk to some people who I think could benefit. That's you know, it's great. Then you can actually pinpoint, well, I think this person would really benefit from this product or service. Let me hop on a call with her and find out more, you know? The way I like to do my market research calls is to do 30 minutes dedicated to me asking questions and the person answering them. And then 30 minutes where, as a way of saying thank you, we spend 30 minutes coaching. I coach that person on any issue. And usually the issue relates to, you know, what I've been digging into. And I've printed out some market research questions that I used for a previous online course that I created. And, you know, just to give you a sense of a couple, you know, what's the biggest thing you're struggling with in your life right now? Or it might be in your business or with your health or in your love life. What change or transformation would you love to see with that? Why do you want to make the change? Why is it important for you? You know, when you try to make change with this issue, what gets in the way, or what thoughts come up as you try to make changes in this area? What's the impact of not making those changes? So what's the cost to you if with this specific issue, if nothing were to change, what would be the cost? What would be the impact on your life? These are the kinds of questions that you want to be thinking about. And then you also want to be, you know, asking questions like, you know, if you were going to work with someone like me, a business coach or whatever your title is, you know, what would you want from it? What would you want to get out of it? What would be the most important outcome of working with somebody like me? Other good questions to ask on a market research call is, you know, how would you like that help to be packaged and delivered? You know, and you can give people options, you know, video training, group programs, one-to-one coaching, you know, live event, like whatever formats you might consider doing this work in. Ask people what works best for them. And then a question that's really important is, if you had to put a dollar figure on what that would be worth to you, what would you pay? Really great to hear. And you often get, I have in the past, some very surprising results. Either people pay a lot more than I had anticipated, or it's a lot lower than I anticipated. And that's really important information. You know, a lot of people come to me and say, I don't know how to price this. Ask your people, ask them. Of course, people are going to say, you know, the fear is that people are going to say lower than they would actually pay because they want the price to be low. If you can say to people, you know, genuinely, you know, what would you be prepared to pay? Like, what would be your upper limit in terms of what you would pay, or what would you not pay more than? You know, you can dig into it. And the great thing about being in a conversation is you can dig in to the details. So you know, rather than just take someone's first answer and write it down, you can ask more, you know. And sometimes you might find you might have a set of questions, and you deviate a little bit because something comes up that you think, I need more information on this. That's why I love the one-to-one conversations. And then another question that I like asking is, you know, if you were going to seek help with this issue, where would you look? You know, what would you do? What Google term would you search? You know, to get a sense again of how people would go about finding you and your service if you were to offer something in this area. So market research calls are brilliant. And also then, because I'm a big fan of complimentary sessions. So if you offer something, a service like coaching or healing, that you can then gift, you know, in return, 30 minutes of your time, you know, to offering your service, it also demonstrates your business. You know, I'm a big fan of offering complimentary sessions because they give people a direct experience of what it would be like to work with you, which is always beneficial. You know, if you give it your all, they benefit, and they also may go, you know, I want more of this, which is a wonderful side product of market research. So I'm a big fan of market research calls. You don't just have to do them when you're creating something new. If you're in the early stages of your business and you're not sure even what products or services to create, get on calls with people. You know, once you've found, maybe using some of the other types of research, more information about the problem and the issues that people are facing in your subject area, then, you know, then is the time to get on a call and do market research and ask questions that are specific to that issue and delve deeper. And then finally, number 5, I've got feedback questionnaires. And so this is something, again, I put this last because this is something that I think needs to be integrated at various stages of your business. So you should be asking for feedback as often as possible. And so, I mean, I know I don't do this as well as I should, but to give you some examples, I will ask for, if I'm running a one-to-one coaching program, I have a point in the middle of the program where I send over to my client a mid-program review. And it's a set of questions all about, how's it going? Is the program what you thought it was going to be? Is it working for you? What's working? What's not working? What could be improved? Are you making the progress you hoped you would see? If not, what haven't we covered? What progress haven't you made? And it's a wonderful way to ensure, especially with something like a service that's ongoing, to ensure that there is time and space for us to make improvements, to make sure that, you know, overall it's a good experience. Because there's nothing worse than spending 3 or 6 months coaching somebody, asking for feedback right at the end, and they say, you know, it didn't work for me because we focused too much on X instead of Y. And they never told you, and you never asked. You never took a moment to ask, is this working for you? So I'm a big fan of feedback surveys in the middle of a service or program, at the end of. You want to make them as simple as possible. You want to integrate them into your business so that they're automated. If it's left to me to remember to send things to people after I've run a live call, or, you know, whatever it might be, then I'm more likely to forget, or it's more likely to be something that I think, oh, I'll get to it, and then I never do. An important thing with feedback as well is that it goes out as soon as, you know, the work has been finished. So if you're doing something like, if you run an event and you want to get feedback, don't wait a week to send that feedback survey out, because people have already moved on, they've already forgotten, and if it was impactful for them, you know, that's faded. The great thing about asking for feedback as soon as possible to the event or the work finishing is that you get the most enthusiastic response, or the most angry if they weren't satisfied with what you offer. But either way, you get the most authentic and truthful response. And so again, it's something that you might want to offer incentives for. So you might say, if you fill in this feedback survey, you get 10% discount on my future, on any future purchase that you make. You know, there are ways you can incentivize people. Now, I know that a lot of people I've worked with will say, you know, I've tried to do feedback and no one fills it in, but I would say persevere. You know, that's why it's important, especially with feedback, to integrate it into various parts of your business, because people, you know, the vast majority of people are not going to take the time. And if you only ever ask for feedback once in a blue moon, of course, you're not going to get results that really give you any information. But if you're consistently asking for feedback and doing this kind of research, having these market research calls, doing polls, asking questions on Facebook, over time, you will collate enough information for you to really be able to tailor your content, your products and services to your audience's needs. And that is gold. You know, it may feel like this requires a lot of time and energy, but in the long run, what it saves you in not, first of all, pulling your hair out trying to figure out what to create or what your people want or need, but also then creating something that doesn't sell. You know, a lot of times, you know, as a business coach, people will say to me, I've got this idea, and what do you think? And I say, I have no idea. Ask your people. Ask your people. That's the most important thing you can do. They will give you the most important information that nobody else can. You can ask your friends and family and your mastermind buddies and your peers, but the most important answer that you will ever get, you know, to the question, is this a good idea to offer this, to do this, is from your people. So that's my 5 simple ways, some simple, some not so simple ways to conduct audience research. I hope you found it useful. If you have any comments or questions, like I say, I'll drop a link to my audience survey in the comments so you can see how I pull mine together. Let me know. And the other thing I would say, and I do this a lot, is look at the research and the surveys and the questions that other people are asking of you, other businesses. You know, I'm very good at kind of keeping my eye out when someone sends an audience survey, for example, somebody who I love, somebody whose work I follow, and they send an audience survey and I think, oh, this is great. I really like how they've done this. I like the incentive that they've offered. I'll take some ideas from it. It's not stealing. They're research questions, you know, so you can tailor them for your business and use them. So my advice to you is over the next couple of weeks is just keep your eyes open for the research that other people are doing. And when you see things that you like, that feel interesting, look at how that could work for your business. And the other thing as well is answer. I'm a big fan of actually answering the questions that the businesses I interact with ask me. So if I'm asked for feedback, I give it. I always do, because I know how important it is for that business to give the best service that they can give. So, be generous in your responses to people's audience research questions, and hopefully you'll find that you get that generosity returned. So good luck with your research, and let me know if I can help you with it in any way.